the mid-1970s called Your Arms Too Short to Box with God. That's the name of the musical. This song is simply Beatitudes, written by Mickey Grant. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they that do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the poor in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God.
Blessed are the small in number, for they shall be a mighty congregation. It's good to have y'all here. Welcome, and happy Sunday morning to you. I think the weather and then some folks down in the kitchen preparing for our meal have reduced our numbers a bit, but we are very fortunate and thankful to have all of you here with us this morning. You'll find our basket on the back for making any donations to the church. We certainly appreciate that. Those online, you can go to athinkingchurch.org and you'll find more about us there, as well as a place where you can donate if this has become an important part of your Sunday morning. And again, we are having a gathering after this where we'll be having a meal together and then moving into a letter writing campaign. You'll hear a little more about that. I encourage you to stay for that. It's always a wonderful time when our congregation gathers together around the table. I'm going to have two readings I'd like to start with. This Sunday in the lectionary is a reading from the Beatitudes. I'm actually reading, I think that one's in Luke, but I'm going to be reading from Matthew, but we're going to look at the Beatitudes. So this comes from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 1 through 12. I'm reading from the NRSV. Hear now these words. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak, and he taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. And blessed are the pure at heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. And blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Now you add blessing and understanding to the reading of these words. I also want to share a quote from Dorothy Day. This comes out of a book called Dorothy Day Selected Writings. Dorothy says, "Love and ever more love is the only solution to every problem that comes up. If we love each other enough, we will bear with each other's faults and burdens. If we love each other enough, we are going to light a fire in the hearts of others. And it is love that will burn out the sins and hatred that sadden us. It is love that will make us want to do great things for each other. No sacrifice and no suffering will then seem too much."
This song is a U2 song. U2 was like really popular when I was in high school, you know. But this song they wrote in 2017 with Kendrick Lamar, Pulitzer Prize award-winning Kendrick Lamar, by the way. So this is from a site, you know, I scour sites for songs, and the title of this site is the 10 world famous rock and roll hits inspired by the Bible. This is a posting from January 2023, and this is what that blogger said about this song. Given their Irish and Roman Catholic background, it's not surprising that the Bible has influenced you too. In the song Get Out of Your Own Way, the band draws on the Beatitudes, a set of verses from the Sermon on the Mount in the New Testament. These verses instruct people to be compassionate and understanding toward each other. They also offer comfort to those struggling, like the poor, humble, and grieving. But U2 wasn't content to do something straightforward. They took the Beatitudes from the Bible and reinterpreted them in a way that critiques contemporary life. The song's lyrics invert the original message of the Beatitudes and offer a rebuke of modern values. For example, the song's verse notes, "Blessed are the arrogant, for theirs is the kingdom of their own company. Blessed are the superstars, for in the magnificence of their light, we understand better our own insignificance. Blessed are the filthy rich, for you can only truly own what you give away, like your pain." These lines go very strongly against the spirit of the original Beatitudes and offer a harsh take on modern priorities. And they collaborated with Kendrick Lamar on the track. That collaboration makes that critique all the more poignant. The rapper's voice can be heard speaking the anti-Beatitudes as the song's outro. It's unlike his usual style that he uses in his hip-hop songs. Lamar chose to speak the lines plainly, and it has like a preacher-like quality. The metaphor is thick there as a critique of the negative aspects of contemporary material culture. Beware the glorification of wealth, fame, and arrogance. U2 and Lamar warn in the powerful piece of music. But will society heed their advice? That's this blogger. But this is the song, Get Out of Your Own Way. 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 Love hurts. Now you're the girl who's left with no words. Your heart's a balloon, but then it bursts. It doesn't take a cannon, just a pin. Your skin's not covering every distance. Love has got to fight for its existence. The enemy has armies for assistance. The amorous, the glamorous, the kiss, a fist. Listen to this song. Get out of your own way. Oh, 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 oh. Get out of your own way. Oh, oh, oh. I can sing it to you all night, all night. If I could, I'd make it all right, all right. Nothing's stopping you except what's inside. I can help you, but it's your fight, fight back. Don't take it lying down, you got to fight back. Face liberty is starting to crack. She had a plan until she got smacked in the mouth, and it all went south like freedom. The slaves are looking for someone to lead them. The master's looking for someone to lead him. The promised land is there for those who need it the most. And Lincoln's ghost said, get out of your own way. Oh, 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 get out of your own way. Oh, oh, I can sing it to you all night, all night. If I could, I'd make it all right, all right. Nothing's stopping you except what's inside. I can help you, but it's your fight, your fight. Get out of your own way. Oh, oh, oh. Get out of your own way. Get out of your own way. Blessed are the arrogant, for there is the kingdom of their own company. Blessed are the superstars, for the magnificence in their light. We understand better our own insignificance. Blessed are the filthy rich, for you can only truly own what you give away, like your pain.
My message this morning is entitled A Blessed Revolution. From the title, you can possibly tell that today I'd like to ask you to consider a revolution. Not of violence, but of what I believe my hero, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, would call something like a revolution of blessed transformation. From time to time, you know, folks ask me, why do you keep stirring up trouble? And admittedly, it makes me laugh a little bit, but frequently I tell them something like, I'm not stirring up trouble. I'm stirring up blessings. It just depends on whose perspective you're looking at it from. You see, when we look at the ongoing struggles for civil rights in our nation, when we witness the continuing battles of our time, we are reminded of what John Lewis called good trouble. But I'm also reminded of Jesus because he was definitely always getting into good trouble. Now, I realize that there are folks who might not like to hear this, but Jesus wasn't crucified for suggesting that everyone be nice to each other. He wasn't executed for telling people to smile more. Not at all. You see, the Roman Empire, that great machine of oppression, put him on a cross because he was a threat to their power structure. Let me share with you a little something about the politics of Jesus' time. Some of you will know this, and maybe you'll see a bit of mirroring of our own times. You had the Sadducees, what we might today call the religious elite. And they're sitting in their gated communities writing opinion pieces about how the poor should pull themselves up by their own sandal straps. And then you had the Pharisees, believing that they could legislate their way into God's kingdom while ignoring the more important matters of justice, the matters of mercy. But Jesus came with a different message. When he talked about the Beatitudes that I read a moment ago, He wasn't simply giving us a nice Valentine-style greeting card message. He was handing out a revolutionary manifesto. So I told you, I wanted you to think about, consider a revolution. Blessed are the poor in spirit, he said. Now, some folks think this just means being sad about your transgressions, or what some folks might call sins. But let me tell you what it is really talking about. It's talking about those who are humble enough to recognize the systems of oppression and bold enough to stand against them. When Jesus talks about the poor in spirit, he's talking about those who have the courage to stand up to the systems that are failing the people, and that includes those people that are signing petition letters that flood congressional offices, those that are demanding justice, just like we'll be doing today after lunch. And there are those who, of course, aren't so comfortable with things like that. The people who aren't too comfortable with things like that, who will say, but shouldn't we just be focusing on spiritual matters? Well, let me tell you something about spiritual matters. When our LGBTQ plus friends are being denied their dignity, that's a spiritual matter. When immigrants are being treated like criminals for seeking a better life, that's a spiritual matter. When our criminal justice system has two different rule books based on the color of your skin, that is a religious matter. You know, I get letters from folks who follow me on social media, at least direct messages from them. And sometimes those are stories that tell of people being pushed to the margins. And just as Dr. King wrote his letter from Birmingham jail, we must keep writing our letters because of those very folks. We must keep raising our voices because of those very folks. Keep demanding change because of those very folks. Every letter to a congressperson, every petition signed, every protest attended is a modern day epistle of justice. Blessed are the merciful, Jesus said. And here's something that might surprise you. The Greek word used there isn't about simple forgiveness. It's actually about liberation. It's about actively working to free people from oppression. So when we organize campaigns for prison reform, when we flood our representative offices with demands for voting rights, when we march for equal education, we are being the merciful ones that Jesus names as blessed. Now, Jesus didn't sugarcoat what would happen when you stand up for justice. He told us, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. And let me tell you, when you start talking about fair wages, about universal health care, about climate justice, some folks are going to call you a socialist. I know, because I get that all the time. Some folks are going to call you un-American. And I know that because I get that, called that as well. And I have to say, the naysayers of his day basically called Jesus un-Roman. And the way I see it, he's certainly standing on the right side of history, so we've got that going for us. I have to be honest with you. This path, this revolutionary, this blessed revolutionary path I'm talking about is not easy. Not if you do it well, not if you do it right. Honestly, I've not only been called the mouth of Satan, but I've also received death threats. Now, most folks aren't going to get that severe of treatment, but you might lose some social media followers. Your family reunions might get a little bit awkward. But as Presbyterian minister and author of the Message version of the Bible, Eugene Peterson at the end of today's scripture has Jesus saying this: you can be glad when that happens to you. For though they don't like it, I do. And all of heaven will applaud. So I challenge you today, pick up your pen and write those letters. Fill congressional mailboxes with demands for justice. Show up at council meetings. Stand up with the marginalized, because every time we do so, we're not just getting and creating good trouble, we're creating holy trouble. We're not just following in the footsteps of John Lewis, we're following in the footsteps of Jesus himself. And if anybody asks you why you're causing so much trouble, just tell them this isn't trouble. These are just blessings for those in need. Because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it does bend towards justice, and Jesus tells us that we are blessed to be fortunate enough to be God's hands in the bending of that arch. And let us keep in mind that while the Beatitudes are a revolutionary manifesto, we need to understand that this revolution isn't just about changing laws. It's about transforming hearts, transforming lives, and transforming systems. You see, when Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers, he wasn't talking about those who maintain a false peace by staying silent in the face of injustice. Not at all. He was talking about those who make peace by making trouble. Good trouble. Trouble for the systems that perpetuate violence and inequality. Those are the kinds of peacemakers he was talking about. I'm reminded of another of my heroes. We heard from her earlier, Dorothy Day, who understood that peacemaking meant feeding the hungry and it meant housing the homeless. I'm reminded of Oscar Romero, who knew that peacemaking meant speaking truth to power even when power has guns. I'm reminded of Sister Polly Murray, who showed us that peacemaking meant breaking down the walls of gender and racial discrimination in our churches and in our laws. Some folks ask me, isn't all this activism taking us away from the true gospel and studying its theology? Well, I'll tell you something about true gospel. When Jesus fed the 5,000, he did not start by checking their theology. He started by checking their hunger. When he healed the sick, he didn't ask about what their denominational membership was. He asked about their pain. It means that we need to be active in every sphere of life. When we see our education system failing our children, we don't just pray about it. We don't just preach about it. We get out our pens and paper, we flood school board meetings, we organize campaigns until every child has access to quality education. When we see our healthcare system turning away the sick because they can't afford treatment, we don't just shake our heads in dismay. We organize, we write, we march, we vote, we make our voices heard until healthcare becomes the right of everyone and not just a privilege. When we see our planet, when we see creation crying out from the abuse of corporate greed, we don't just recycle our water bottles. We write letters. We join those climate actions. We demand that our leaders choose creation over corporate profits. Sometimes people also tell me, Mark, you're asking too much. Change takes time. And I tell them, well, that's exactly what they told Dr. King in the Birmingham jail. But he knew, as we must know, that the time is always right to do what's right. The time is always right to stand with the oppressed. The time is always right to be blessed troublemakers. So let me challenge you one final time. When leave here today. Don't just leave with the Beatitudes in your heart. Leave with them in your hands. Let them guide your fingers as you write those letters demanding justice. Let them move your feet as you march for equality. Let them open your mouth as you speak truth to power. Because when Jesus said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness," he wasn't describing a passive yearning. He was calling us to an active pursuit of justice that transforms the world. And yes, we might face some forms of persecution. Yes, we might lose some comfortable friends. Yes, we might have to sacrifice some of our privilege. But I'm here to tell you that sometimes that's the cost of being the blessing that Jesus calls us to be. That's the price of following his teachings. That's what it means to be part of a blessed revolution. I'll conclude this. Jesus wasn't crucified for being nice. He was crucified for being a threat to power. And today's Christians are called to follow his revolutionary example in the Beatitudes by creating good trouble. Blessed are those who write letters demanding justice, who march for equality, who stand with the marginalized, and who challenge comfortable churches to do better. As MLK taught us, the arc of the moral universe indeed bends towards justice, but only when we're brave enough to bend it. Time to be blessed troublemakers.
This is the song that B.B. Winans wrote and performed at the funeral for John Lewis. Born in Troy, Alabama, to Eddie and Willie Mae, sharecroppers working in the heat of the day. He knew there was so much more, so he asked the Lord to show, yes he did, that what he achieved in his life we're already know. He was there when you called in a hurry. Truth he worked out, don't you worry. He was willing to fight in the struggle and willing to get in good trouble. Yes, he was. He was willing to get in good trouble. Took on the wrong of this world, like voting and civil rights. No matter the problems we face, we never lose sight. Taught us to walk by faith and believe until the end. Together we'll soon overcome, and love is gonna win. And I'll be there when you call in a hurry. Tell you the truth, don't you worry. He was willing to fight in the struggle, and I'm willing to get in good trouble. Willing to get in good trouble. And as you put on your wings to fly home, we will continue to fight and be strong. As you put on your wings to fly home, we'll continue to fight, continue to fight. And when you call it a hurry, tell you the truth and don't worry. He was willing to fight in the struggle, willing to get in good trouble, willing to fight, ready to fight, ready to get in good trouble, willing to fight, ready to fight, ready to get in good trouble.
Let's bow our heads together. We gather today with hearts open to transformation and hands ready for the work of justice. Like Jesus before us, may we be bold enough to trouble the waters of complacency and privilege. We give thanks for the blessed troublemakers throughout history, for prophets who spoke truth to power, for activists who marched towards freedom, for writers whose letters shook prison walls, for ordinary people who did extraordinary things in the name of love and justice. We recognize the times we choose comfort over justice, when we remained silent to keep peace, when we looked away from the suffering of others, when we failed to write, to speak, to act, to love. May we have the courage of the Beatitudes, the humility to recognize our own privilege, the righteous anger that leads to sacred action, the mercy that demands liberation, the strength to make peace by making change. May we be moved from thoughts to letters, from letters to actions, from actions to transformation. Let us be uncomfortable with easy answers, dissatisfied with shallow peace, restless until all are free. May our prayers become protests, our worship become witness, our faith become fuel for change. Let us be blessed troublemakers, holy agitators, sacred disturbers of the status quo. When we grow weary, may we be reminded that we are surrounded by a great cloud of witness, that we follow in the footsteps of a revolutionary Jesus, that we are never alone in this holy struggle. In the spirit of Jesus, an early blessed troublemaker, in the company of all who work for justice, in the hope of a world transformed by love, we pray. Amen. See this blessing. May you walk in harmony with each other and with creation, recognizing that we are one. And may you know love and happiness throughout your life. And may your words and your actions share that love and happiness with all of those you meet.